Mary Kay, by my math, and my math is usually wrong, but 6 have interviewed so far. They want to talk to at least 3 more, and that obviously does not include John Harbaugh, who they have not scheduled an interview with just yet, even though they've talked to him. Do you think there's a leader in the clubhouse right now, or do you feel like there is a lot more runway to go in this process before they start narrowing this field?
I think there's more runway because they haven't yet talked to Jesse Minter or Nate Scheelhaus or Grant Udinsky. So they haven't talked to those 3 yet. So until they do that, you really can't, I don't think, say there's a leader in the clubhouse. I think you need to get these guys either on the Zoom or in your building for the second interview or whatever, and really get a feel for who they are, what they do, and just see if it's a culture fit and all of those kinds of things. So I don't think that they necessarily have a leader yet. They may have had some preferences heading in, but you've got to go through the interview process.
For weeks, Browns fans have been waiting for one thing: clarity. Who's the front runner? Who's already ahead? Who's quietly locked in behind the scenes? According to Mary Kay Cabot, the answer is simple: no one. Despite nonstop speculation, viral coaching rumors, and fans connecting dots that may not even exist, Cleveland's head coaching search is still wide open. No favorite, no handshake deal, no secret shortlist with a clear leader. And that might be the most important detail of all, because in most coaching searches, a frontrunner emerges fast. Leaks start happening. Media narratives form. Betting odds tighten. But this time, the Browns are moving differently. And that's creating tension inside the fan base. Some see it as patience. Others see it as confusion. Mary Kay Cabot's reporting cuts through the noise and resets expectations. What's being pushed online doesn't match what's actually happening inside the building. And the longer this search stays open, the more pressure it puts on the front office to get it right. This also changes how we view the recent rumors tied to big-name coaches. If there's truly no front runner, then every assumption needs to be including which direction Cleveland actually wants to go. In this video, we break down what Mary Kay Cabot is really saying. Why the Browns don't have a front runner yet. How this affects the timeline of the coaching search, and why uncertainty may be intentional, not accidental, because sometimes the biggest headline is the lack of one. When Mary Kay Cabot speaks about the Cleveland Browns, people inside the league listen carefully, not because she speculates, but because her reporting is rooted in access, front office conversations, organizational signals, and what's actually happening behind closed doors. That's why her latest reporting landed differently. In the middle of nonstop rumors, trending coaching names, and fans connecting dots online. Cabot made one point crystal clear: the Browns do not currently have a front runner in their head coaching search. That single detail immediately cuts against the dominant narrative all week. The assumption has been that Cleveland must be narrowing in, that someone is quietly ahead, that the search is mostly a formality before a final announcement. But Cabot's reporting says otherwise, and that matters, because it resets expectations. This isn't a case of secrecy hiding a decision. It's a case of a decision that hasn't been made yet. According to what's been reported, the Browns are still actively evaluating candidates. Not just resumes, but philosophies. Not just experience, but fit. And that distinction is critical, because teams that rush to crown a frontrunner early often end up trapped by momentum rather than clarity. What Cabot's reporting suggests is that Cleveland is deliberately slowing the process. No preferred candidate has separated himself enough to take the lead. No internal consensus has been reached. And most importantly, no name has been elevated above the rest inside the building, even if certain names dominate headlines outside of it. This helps explain the mixed signals fans have been noticing. One day, offensive-minded coaches are trending. The next, defensive candidates gain traction. Then, suddenly, veteran leadership is back in the conversation. That inconsistency isn't dysfunction. It's reflection. It reflects a front office still defining its priorities, still debating what this next era of Browns football should actually look like. And that's far more complicated than choosing the hottest coach on the market. Cabot's reporting also underlines something else that often gets overlooked. The Browns understand the stakes of this hire. This isn't a rebuild situation. This isn't a clean slate. Cleveland has a roster built to compete, a fan base that's tired of resets, and a front office that knows another misstep could have long-term consequences. So instead of rushing towards certainty, They're choosing discomfort. They're choosing uncertainty now to avoid regret later, and that's why Cabot's words matter. She's not telling fans what they want to hear. She's telling them what's actually happening. The Browns aren't hiding a favorite. They haven't quietly decided. They're still in the evaluation phase, in a league where impatience often drives mistakes. That restraint is notable. For now, the absence of a frontrunner isn't a failure of direction. It's evidence of deliberation, in the NFL. Naming a frontrunner changes everything. The moment a candidate is viewed as the guy, pressure accelerates. Media scrutiny intensifies. Fan expectations spike. And internally, objectivity can quietly slip away. That's exactly what the Browns appear determined to avoid, according to the current reporting. Cleveland is intentionally resisting the urge to let this search narrow too quickly. And that decision says a lot about how the front office views its own past. This franchise has lived through rushed hires before, coaches chosen under pressure, decisions influenced by optics, searches that prioritize momentum over alignment. The results of those choices are well documented: inconsistency, resets, and instability. This time, the Browns are trying something different, by refusing to elevate a frontrunner early. Cleveland keeps control of the process. They maintain leverage. They give themselves room to ask difficult questions without the risk of embarrassment or backtracking. Because once a frontrunner exists, it becomes harder to walk away, even if concerns emerge. Right now, Cleveland doesn't want that trap. They're still weighing what kind of leader fits this roster, what type of culture needs reinforcement, how the next head coach will interact with the front office, the quarterback room, and a fan base hungry for legitimacy. That's not something you solve with a headline. Another important layer here is timing. The Browns aren't operating on desperation. They're not scrambling because a decision must be made tomorrow. They're operating on intention, and that allows patience. If a candidate impresses later in the process, Cleveland wants the freedom to pivot. If red flags appear, they want the ability to pause. If philosophies clash, they want the option to walk away quietly. Naming a frontrunner too soon removes those options. It also invites external influence. Once fans latch onto a name, noise becomes unavoidable. Media cycles push urgency. Social platforms reward speculation. And suddenly, the decision feels public before it's actually made. Cleveland appears determined not to let that happen. There's also a practical reality at play. If the Browns truly had a favorite, leaks would be louder by now. That's how NFL searches usually work. Silence often signals disagreement, debate, and serious internal discussion, not confusion. This suggests the Browns are still aligning internally, not about who they like, but about what they want. Offensive identity versus defensive stability, experience versus innovation, short-term success versus long-term structure. Those are foundational questions. And until they're answered, naming a frontrunner would be premature. For a franchise that understands how costly mistakes can be, caution isn't weakness, it's strategy. The absence of a frontrunner tells us more than the presence of one ever could. It tells us the Browns are treating this hire as transformational, not transactional. Mary Kay Cabot's reporting frames this search as deliberate and unresolved, and that's exactly where Cleveland wants it to be right now. The front office isn't rushing to satisfy public curiosity. They're focused on long-term alignment. That approach reshapes expectations. Instead of waiting for a surprise announcement, fans should expect a process that unfolds methodically. Interviews that matter. Conversations that go deeper than schemes. Evaluations centered on leadership, adaptability, and vision. This also means timelines could stretch, and while that can be uncomfortable, it's not necessarily a bad sign. Some of the league's best coaching hires were made only after teams resisted early pressure and let the process breathe. When a frontrunner finally does emerge in Cleveland, it will likely feel quieter than expected. Not because it lacks impact, but because it will come from internal agreement rather than public noise. That's the key. Difference. The Browns aren't chasing the loudest name. They're chasing the right fit. This decision will shape how the roster is maximized, how young players are developed, and how credibility is restored. It's not just about wins, it's about sustainability. And that's why the lack of urgency is intentional. Cleveland understands that the wrong hire doesn't just cost a season. It costs trust. It costs momentum. It costs belief. So for now, the silence is meaningful. It tells us the Browns are still deciding who they want to be. not just who they want to hire. And until that clarity is reached, a front runner doesn't exist. When it does, it won't be because of pressure. It will be because of alignment. It will be because of alignment.